In a shocking turn of events that would shake the foundation of Elvis Presley's world, an incident in Baton Rouge laid bare a troubling reality. Contraband drugs were still accessible to Elvis, even under strict supervision. It was a stark reminder that keeping the king safe from substances he shouldn't have was far from a done deal. This revelation came after Elvis had already left the hospital, flying first to Las Vegas and then to his home in Palm Springs. With him were friends and a new companion, Alicia Kerwin, who had stepped in after a tumultuous breakup with Ginger. On that fateful day, Elvis was asleep when a medical emergency struck. It was an urgent situation that required immediate attention from doctors, leading to Dr. Gainham, who had treated Elvis before, rushing to Palm Springs on his private jet. Dr. Gainham later described the situation. Elvis had overdosed on Placidil, a sleep medication. However, something didn't sit right with me, given Elvis had been taking Demerol placebos in the hospital. It seemed Elvis thought these placebos were the same as what he had been taking before, unaware of the real danger in continuing medication he thought was safe. This incident was just one in a series of troubling events that marked Elvis's life during this period. After his hospital stay, Elvis quickly left for Las Vegas and then back to Palm Springs. Along the way were his friends Billy and Joe Smith and Alicia Kerwin, who would soon become a significant presence in his life. But the road ahead was fraught with more challenges. As the tour resumed on April 21st, Elvis's health and performances became increasingly erratic. Fans began to notice and comment, their concerns growing louder. RCA Records even went as far as recording some of his live performances to include in his upcoming album, hoping to capture the essence of an artist struggling to maintain his legendary status. But the recordings only highlighted the decline. By mid-month, the situation took a darker turn. The Nashville Banner published a story about Parker, Elvis's manager, attempting to sell his management contract, which he claimed failed to find a buyer. This news sent shockwaves through Elvis's camp. Elvis grew increasingly paranoid, suspecting spies among the tabloids. He even tasked Dick Grobb, a former bodyguard, with finding the snitch. Meanwhile, Vernon Presley filed for divorce from D. Stanley Presley, adding to the chaos. The turmoil continued as Elvis took the stage in Knoxville. The heat was oppressive, and Elvis was already looking pale and lethargic in his heavy stage clothes. Despite the audience's enthusiastic applause, his performance suffered. A near disaster unfolded when excited fans surged forward, collapsing chairs as they pushed toward the stage. Elvis, visibly struggling, stepped back to drink water, his wit still able to shine through his exhaustion. Backstage, Dean, Elvis's trusted aide, worked tirelessly to prepare him for performances. He protected Elvis's hands from scratches and ensured his rings stayed in place, using band-aids as a makeshift solution. Despite these efforts, Elvis's hands would swell dramatically with his fluctuating weight, a recurring problem that required constant adjustments. As the tour moved on to Binghamton, New York, Elvis's frustration with Ginger grew. He could not understand her need to bring her sisters along or why she grew homesick so easily. Yet he couldn't resist the pull of her presence, ultimately deciding to let her have her way. The band and crew were excited for a rare break in Binghamton, but Elvis was unable to join them. Instead, he stayed inside, a rare moment of solitude in a tour filled with chaos and stress. The situation took another turn for the worse when Elvis fell ill before a show in Baltimore. His stomach was distended and bloated, causing him significant discomfort and limiting his performance ability. Late going on stage, he had to excuse himself mid-show, visibly humbled by his failure to deliver the performance the audience expected. In Macon, Georgia, Elvis faced another humbling moment. He couldn't sing two of his most beloved songs, How Great Thou Art and Hurt, due to a catch in his throat. This failure to meet his own high standards weighed heavily on him, adding to the mounting pressure of his failing health and personal life. These events painted a grim picture of Elvis's life during this tour, a life marked by health struggles, personal turmoil, and the ever-present threat of drugs. Each day brought new challenges, and it was clear that the king was far from invincible. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, was facing a tough time as he prepared for a TV special. He had just learned that CBS would be taping concerts in Omaha and Rapid City, places that didn't seem exciting to him. The cities were ordinary, and there was bad news swirling around because of a book by his bodyguards that was about to come out. This book wasn't about Elvis in a good way, and it made everyone feel sad and worried, especially since it was coming out close to the TV special. The concerts themselves didn't seem special either. The places were not interesting, and the style of filming them didn't add anything new or thrilling. Elvis seemed tired and thoughtful during these performances. It was clear he was unwell, but many people could tell he wasn't using drugs, at least not from what they saw. As the tour went on, Elvis grew a little bolder. One night in Madison, Wisconsin, something unusual happened. His limo stopped at a service station. Elvis jumped out and stood in a karate stance to protect an attendant from two men who seemed to be causing trouble. Dean, his friend and bodyguard, was there and told Elvis to back off. But Elvis stood firm, showing he still had some fight in him. The men recognized Elvis but seemed unsure of his martial arts skills. They backed down, and Elvis, rather than causing trouble, ended up signing autographs and taking photos with fans. Later that night, Elvis and Dean found him missing from their hotel in Cincinnati. Dean searched everywhere, even peering out the window, before finally spotting Elvis walking down the street, clearly looking for a cooler place to stay. Elvis ended up at a different hotel room, showing how uncomfortable he was with the heat in his original room. The next day, Elvis flew to Indianapolis for another concert. RCA Records, his record company, was there to capture more footage for the TV special. They even got a moment of him arriving at the airport. Before the show, RCA executives gave Elvis a special plaque for his billionth record sold, a huge milestone. Elvis was visibly surprised and happy, but kept his usual humility. Despite his fatigue, Elvis gave what many considered his best performance during the short tour. It was clear he was pushing himself hard, using up all his energy. Dean was worried about the cuts made to the concert footage for the TV special, thinking it might make Elvis look bad. He believed Elvis was doing his best despite everything. After the tour, Elvis returned to Graceland, his home, for some rest. Tish Henley, who was close to him, shared how Elvis would often call her when he was lonely, especially when his girlfriend would leave to go out. In those quiet moments, they would read together, mostly in the bathroom because it was one of Elvis's favorite spots. Despite knowing he looked and felt unwell, Elvis rarely complained. He tried to get in shape quickly before tour, but always aimed to entertain his fans no matter how he felt. He believed in giving his all, even when it hurt. Even as Elvis knew fans would soon read the book that painted him in a negative light, he stayed hopeful about his upcoming tour. He told everyone it would be the best one yet, showing his unwavering dedication to his fans. Sadly, his health issues and the stress of living up to the image of the king were taking a heavy toll. Elvis's life took a tragic turn when he passed away on the very day his tour was set to start. His death left many, including his friends and former patients, feeling lost and heartbroken. The details of his health revealed through an autopsy showed the toll his body had taken, but the full picture wasn't fully understood at the time. The loss of Elvis Presley was deeply felt. Friends and fans poured in messages of support, reminding each other of the joy he brought to so many. Even in death, Elvis continued to be a source of comfort and inspiration, a testament to his lasting impact on music and culture. In the days following Elvis Presley's death, many questions surrounded what really happened. People were curious and worried, wondering if something unusual had caused his death. The hospital where Elvis was autopsied, Baptist Hospital, took special care with his autopsy. They were worried because of some books written by Elvis's own bodyguards. Those books said some things that made people suspicious. Plus, Elvis had been in the hospital several times recently and had died under strange circumstances. A big newspaper in Memphis, the Commercial Appeal, wrote an article on October 23, 1977, saying the hospital had to be careful with Elvis's autopsy results. The article said many people at the hospital, including pathologists, were confused. They couldn't understand why Elvis had died if there were no signs of disease causing his death. The doctors had agreed the autopsy results were unclear, but instead of saying so, they said Elvis died from a heart rhythm problem with an unknown cause. The article talked about Dr. George Nishapoulos, a well-known doctor, who said heart disease likely wasn't the cause of death. He pointed out Elvis's arteries weren't blocked as much as doctors usually worry about. Instead, Dr. Nishapoulos focused on the 7 different drugs found in Elvis's system. There was another problem. 2 different labs tested Elvis's body for drugs. The first lab, which the hospital used, found only 1 drug, Placidil, but another lab found 10 drugs. This was confusing. The second lab said high amounts of 3 drugs, especially codeine and barbiturates, might have caused Elvis's death. These drugs were at levels that could make someone very sick, not necessarily death levels right away. The article mentioned a specific combination of drugs, codeine, Placidil, and barbiturates, that could be dangerous together. However, the article didn't explain well why these drugs were a problem or give evidence for this claim. The reporters didn't even check if Placidil was really in Elvis's body, even though it was mentioned in the autopsy report. The hospital claimed they kept the autopsy results secret, but they kept talking about them publicly. This made people, including the estate, upset. No one from the estate did anything about it, though. The big question for many was who gave the reporter inside information about the autopsy. This was important because the information was sensitive and not meant for public discussion. In simple terms, after Elvis died, there was a lot of confusion and suspicion about how he really died. The hospital tried to keep details private, but kept discussing them openly. This led to confusion and questions from the public. The exact reason for Elvis's death remained unclear, leaving many people curious and skeptical about the official explanation.